The next special heroes banner is here, and it's for this year's Valentine's Day. The Lovely Gifts banner features love struck alts for Faye, Conrad, Emperor Rudolf making his Faye debut, and dual hero Alm Celica. We'll take a look at everyone's stats, skills, and talk about general builds and playstyles too. If you remember from the Faye channel, 4-star focus units are now a thing. This is a brand new category in the appearance rates, and it features only one of the banner units. This time our 4-star focus unit is Conrad, and just to be clear, he is still summonable as a 5-star unit. However, if you do summon Conrad at 4 stars, he will not reset your 5-star pity rate, so definitely don't feel bad if you get him, even if you don't want him. If you really like Conrad though, the odds are more in your favor. Starting us off, we have Valentine's Faye, who is honestly might be one of the best units on this banner for some people. She is a colorless armored archer, the 3rd in the game, but man is she really strong. Faye has 43 HP, 40 attack, 23 speed, 35 defense, and 38 resistance. Oh boy, this Faye is an absolute monster stat-wise. If you bring out your calculators, you'll see that Faye has 179 BST. This is because she gets the trainee boost. For comparison, Winter Duo Marth and Elise have 174 BST, and Faye is pretty much up there with melee armor units. With armor skills available, Faye is going to be an amazing unit. For skills, Faye pretty much has her build already set in stone. She has Moonbow, Deathblow 4, Bold Fighter, and Armor March. That is a godly set with plus 8 attack, guaranteed follow-ups, extra special cooldown, and extra movement. I would definitely recommend not getting in her way. For her weapon, Faye has the Budding Bow Plus, which is an inheritable bow that grants plus 4 attack and defense and prevents the foe's follow-up attacks if Faye initiates combat. Sometimes our seasonal inheritable weapons are not that amazing, but this is not one of those times. Budding Bow is essentially a mini sturdy impact bow. The extra attack and defense is great for attacking, and the fall-off prevention is really strong for survivability. Essentially, this is a perfect bow for a slow but tanky archer like Faye. If you somehow survive her 2 attacks plus Moonbow backed by Deathblow 4, you can't use a follow-up attack unless you can cancel this effect out. Admittedly, Faye is really slow, so any not super slow quick riposte user can do this, but you have to survive her onslaught first, which is another story. To me, the impact series of skills are extremely powerful in PvP modes with defense teams. A lot of times just living through a round of combat is enough to mess up the attacker, and now you can stick this effect on a weapon. If anything, it's like having Sturdy Blow 2 on a bow. As mentioned, if you get Faye, you really don't have to do much for builds. Deathblow 4 and Bold Fighter is such a good combo, and Faye can easily just run a Brave Bow set to create the same build that Halloween Jacob used to terrorize people. It's been a while, but it's quite the experience to watch a unit get hit 4 times, plus have a huge nuke special as well. For Faye, you'll probably want Glacies instead of Ignis. For Sacred Seals, you can't really go wrong with more attack, so Sturdy Blow 2 is fine, and it's a nice choice if you keep Faye's Budding Bow, since that will be plus 8 attack and defense, and then another plus 8 attack from Deathblow 4. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that Faye is our new highest attack archer in the game. She is also our new highest defense and highest res archer as well. Valentine's Faye is basically a much stronger Halloween Jacob. While offensive builds are nice, you can also build defensively too. Guard Bow plus double distant defense skills will make Faye nigh unkillable against ranged attacks, and she can run Vengeful Fighter too. If you want to go for close counter, I would probably use something like a Slaying Bow, but Guard Bow is still fine. Faye does have a ton of base attack, defense, and res anyway. If you want to be more mixed phase, Faye can run Quick Riposte with Bold Fighter, or even with Special Fighter. Budding Bow plus Special Fighter plus Quick Riposte would be pretty annoying to face, and Worry Fighter would also be another annoying skill for stalling tank builds. For the most part, I think you'll see base kit Faze with Brave Bows because that combo is just so stupidly strong. She will want Armor March for the mobility, but Faye can also use Armored Boots if you don't field any other armored units. In general, she's going to be a very scary unit, and I don't look forward to running into her. Our second banner unit is Valentine's Conrad. You can get him as a 4-star and 5-star unit. Now, Valentine's Conrad pretty much copies his normal self that we got last year, except now he is a Sword Cavalier. He has 39 HP, 32 attack, 23 speed, 33 defense, and 35 resistance. A slow but tanky boy. If you're familiar with normal Grand Hero Battle Conrad, then this Valentine's version is very much the same. For old skills, Conrad has Ardent Sacrifice, which gives 10 HP to an ally. He also has Brazen Defense and Res, which is his 4-star skill. You can proc the Brazen with 1 Ardent Sacrifice use, but it's not exactly a super crazy strategy to depend on. For his B skill, Conrad has Wings of Mercy, probably because he always swoops in to save the day. Gameplay wise, it's not exactly a stellar skill for him though. Conrad has the Melee Bouquet Plus, which is an inheritable sword with the same effect as Faye's bow. If unit initiates combat, grants attack and defense plus 4 and prevent a foe's follow-up attack. Conrad has a similar styling to Faye with low speed, so melee bouquet is nice to not get doubled, but unlike Faye, Conrad doesn't have bold fighters, so he's not going to be that scary offensively. He'll appreciate the extra attack and defense though, and Cavaliers can't use impact skills in the first place, so it's a nice weapon if you have a plan for its usage. We'll talk about a few ways Conrad can utilize this weapon. As an aside, follow-up attacks have always been extremely powerful in Faye, and the more weapons and skills that get added with follow-up based effects means no follow-up rises up in value. Just something to keep in mind. Now for builds like we covered, Valentine's Conrad is basically a sword version of his normal self. If you saw how normal Conrad can be built, things aren't much different here. With melee bouquet, if you do want to try something different, you can play around brazen skills, vantage, and attack smoke. The idea of being Conrad initiates a fight, he only takes one attack back, probably falls into brazen advantage activation range, and then on the enemy phase he'll be tougher to take down. It's a decent 1v1 tactic, but Faye is rarely a simple 1v1, so this is not something to depend on with multiple attackers and ranged units too. It's not flashy, but the safer option is to just run a quick riposte set. Valentine's Conrad can get access to the Barrier Blade for +7 res on the enemy phase, and you can stack that with things like Mirror Stance and Close Defense. The defense focused Safeguard Sword is a bit harder to get a hold of, unfortunately. Other fun skills include Fortress Defense and Res 3, Low Attack and Defense, and Ploy or Sabotage skills since Conrad has great base resistance. Most Sword Cavaliers struggle heavily with magic damage, so this Conrad can fill a niche role. He probably isn't going to be a meta unit, which is why he is the 4-star focus unit, but hey, Quick Riposte solves a lot of problems and you can still have fun using him. Our third unit is Valentine's Rudolf, a new face to the game. Rudolf is another armor unit, but he is a lance armor this time. He has 46 HP, 43 attack, 21 speed, 41 defense, and 29 resistance. You saw correctly, Rudolf has 43 base attack, no attack super boon, but he doesn't need it to be the new highest attack unit in the game with boons included. A more typical armor stat line with high attack and defense with lower speed and resistance. Emperor Rudolf has a one hit and you're dead playstyle, so let's see what he has to do just that. For old skills, Rudolf starts with Bonfire, which will be 20 plus damage with his 41 base defense. He also has Special Fighter, which is usually seen on faster armor units, but Rudolf can make it work. Rudolf comes with a unique lance called the THORN lance. This is a 16-might lance that accelerates special trigger, so Bonfire will be on a 2 cooldown. At the start of combat, if Rudolf's attack is greater than the enemy's attack, he inflicts -6 attack and defense on the foe during combat, and he prevents a follow-up attack. An attack comparison check seems pretty good for our new highest attack unit, but it's a check at the start of combat, so you can't use Death Blow and other in-combat boost. Should Rudolf activate Thorn Lance, he just deals more damage. It's really not good for the enemy. He will also become tankier, and preventing a follow-up means even less damage, but the enemy will need to survive for that to matter. To make things even scarier, Rudolf has Threat and Attack and Defense 3. At the start of the turn, if unit is within 2 spaces of an enemy, grants +5 attack and defense for 1 turn, and inflicts -5 attack and defense on any enemy within 2 spaces through their next action. Dual Threatens are extremely good on army units because they can only move 1 space, so if you try to bait them on the enemy phase, the Threaten will activate. Getting hit by these skills are absolutely awful, and it's partly why Surtur is so dang annoying. For Rudolf, this skill is amazing because it gives him a +10 attack advantage. He gains 5 attack while the enemy loses 5 attack. This is all outside of combat, which means Thorn Lance benefits from it, and if you get hit by Threat and Attack and Defense, it probably means Thorn Lance is going to proc. Like Surtur, trying to enemy phase Rudolf is not going to be a fun time. So Valentine's Rudolf isn't the worst army unit out there, but boy will he still do a lot of damage. The ideal scenario for him is to tank an attack and then fire off Bonfire to get the kill. If you give him distant counter, then those squishy range units are going to think twice about attacking him. On the other side of things, if you try to make Rudolf attack first, he won't get Bonfire procced since he isn't doubling, but like we mentioned, Threat Attack and Defense is a deterrent. You do not want to use Armor March with this skill, and if it activates, Rudolf gains a ton of damage while the enemy also loses a lot of damage, so even if he doesn't kill them in one attack, he may still survive the fight. It's the safer play, but with Threat Attack and Defense and Thorn Lance both activating, that means you lose -11 attack and defense, and Rudolf gains +5 attack and defense. 43 base attack with an extra 16 damage is not ideal to tank, and if he has distant counter, you may not even be able to bring him down with ranged attacks. If you want more than one hit, then Rudolf can just use Bold or Vengeful Fighter. I mean, with Bold Fighter, Death Blow, and high base attack, you really can't go wrong. It also works fine with his weapon. Going defensive with Vengeful Fighter isn't a bad idea either. If Thorn Lance activates, the enemy loses 6 attack and can't make a follow-up, so that's a pretty nice combo to have. To help ensure Thorn Lance is always active, you can bring along Attack Smoke, Attack Buffs like even Attack Wave, and then Attack debuffs for the enemy like Chill Attack. Honestly, the basic +3 attack seal is fine as well. For the most part, Rudolf can be handled easily if he doesn't have this encounter, but things get tricky if he does have it. Honestly, Rudolf kind of feels like a Surtur type army unit, not unbeatable, but there are certain situations you really want to avoid, so use caution. Depending on what fighter skill he uses, he is pretty versatile, and Thorn Lance can benefit from each of them, so it's a solid weapon. Our last banner unit is Valentine's duo Alm Celica. The stars of the show, Alm and Celica, joined forces and are going to be an axe infantry unit. They have 40 HP, 35 attack, 40 speed, 32 defense, and 25 resistance. We finally have a new fastest axe unit. After 3 years, Commander Anna no longer has the highest base speed. We may have a ton of fast infantry sword units, but fast axe units are much harder to come by, so Dual Alm will be an interesting unit to have. They have solid attack to pair with that high speed, and their defensive stats aren't too shabby either. Alm and Celica are pretty much an axe version of all the quick sword masters we've had. For old skills, Dual Alm will retain his unique Lunar Flash special from his legendary ult. It's a mini Moonbow combined with a mini Regno Astra. Alm will also have bonus doubler, so expect a lot of buffing shenanigans, and he also has low attack and speed. It's going to be extremely hard to outspeed Dual Alm, and he'll be taking less damage as well. For their unique weapon, Alm and Celica have the Scepter of Love. It grants a flat +3 speed, which brings their speed up to a very good 43 speed. At the start of combat, if a bonus granted by a rally or hone skill is active on Alm, or if Alm has more than 70% HP at the start of combat, he will get 2 effects. The first is that Alm will get bonus attack equal to 25% of the foe's defense stat. Second, he will inflict an attack debuff equal to 25% of the foe's res stat. Very interesting ability. I hope you like doing some math. First off, I already saw some comments saying Dual Alm has true damage, and that is not the case. I want to nip that in the bud because some people still think Blue Flame does true damage. It's easier to understand with an example. If the enemy has 40 defense, Alm will gain +10 attack during combat. At the same time, if they have 30 resistance, that will equal to a -7 attack debuff on the enemy. I think this is a pretty cool weapon. Similar to Rudolph's Thorn Lance, the Scepter of Love is really just a stat boost in favor of Alm. If the enemy has more defense, Alm gains more damage to deal more damage. Depending on their res stat, Alm will then take less damage. The values are going to change from enemy to enemy, but it's not super complicated. Scepter of Love also has 2 activation conditions. One is having just any field buff, which is pretty easy to achieve. The second is just being above 70% HP, again another really easy requirement. This brings us to Alm and Celica's dual skill. When activated, this skill will restore 30 HP, neutralize penalties, and grant attack and speed +6 to Alm and all allies within 5 rows and 5 columns centered on Alm. This is a very cool skill. It's a huge support ability. 30 HP is substantial, and 6 attack and speed on demand is great, especially for a unit with bonus doubler. Both of these perks also fulfill the activation requirements of Scepter of Love. Now, a big part of the skill is that it completely neutralizes all penalties, and this includes stat debuffs and negative status effects like Panic. That is a huge boon and can turn the tide of a fight for Alm's entire team. 5x5 is a big area of effect as well. While Dual Alm loves this skill, you do need to be careful of using any allies who want to be on low HP. Most notably, Desperation users may need to stay on low health to not get one shot. Otherwise, Dual Alm can sort of act like a backup healer for short battles. You can have a teammate engage a fight and then heal them back up if you need them to fight again. Last, Dual Alm introduces Rouse Speed and Res 3. At the start of the turn, if unit is not adjacent to an ally, grants +6 speed and resistance for 1 turn. I always mix up Rouse skills and ult skills, so as a reminder, Rouse C skills are inheritable by infantry and cavaliers. For Dual Alm, obviously the extra speed is great, and with bonus doubler, he's going to hit 55 speed. The extra resistance is also great since that is their weakest stat. Dual Alm and Celica are looking like a pretty fun unit. Being the fastest axe unit in the game is exciting, and Scepter of Love should be interesting. Here's how I'm thinking of it, because it doesn't grant a specific amount of stats, but I think 20 defense and res is a pretty good baseline to be considered on the low side. If the enemy has 20 defense, 25% of that is 5, so Scepter of Love will probably grant at least +5 attack. Same for resistance. If the enemy has 20 res, they will then lose -5 attack, which is like giving Alm +5 defense and res. That is just a baseline, because against tougher opponents, they will definitely have more defense and res than that, which means bigger stat boost for Alm. Now the general playstyle is pretty basic. We want to activate Scepter of Love, and Alm can do that just by fighting when healthy, or getting buffed up from an ally, or by using route speed and res, or even his dual skill. With how fast Alm is, if he doubles enemy that can counter, he will then proc Lunar Flash for more damage. With their dual skill, Alm Celica can then set their next turn up really well. For example, Panic is a pretty deadly status effect, and you usually want to avoid it. In 8th Raids, it's not uncommon to run into a Versa who inflicts panic and debuffs if you stand too close to your teammates. With dual Alm, you can stand as close as you want, because on the next turn, you can neutralize all of a Versa's debuffs and panic. He can do this for his whole team, so it's awesome for making a big play afterwards. I also think it's a strong dual skill, because you can activate dual skills even after all units have already moved. If Alm fights and is hurt, or if anyone is hurt for that matter, he can heal your entire team up for the coming enemy phase. This is going to be a pretty clutch ability. I think dual Alm is also going to be much tankier than expected, because Scepter of Love and low attack and speed stack together, and you get a lot of attack debuffs going. If the foe has 20 resistance, that is -5 attack, and low attack and speed inflict -3 attack by itself. Since they are really fast, I'm also pretty interested in what Close Call or Repel could do for dual Alm. Again, not a ton of fast axe units around, so this is a good opportunity to give our crazy new damage reduction skills to a non-sword unit. I don't know if it's worth replacing low attack and speed, but I'm sure someone will do it. For other skills, I think no follow-up is an easy consideration. Flashing Blade 4 is definitely in play and is nice with Lunar Flash. If you aren't liking the Rouse C skill, then you can also use the Oath buffs, although those are just as hard to get. If you stick with Bonus Doubler, which is fine, I would consider bringing another ally who can give buffs, since the dual skill can only be used one time. If you do plan around one big turn, however, with the dual skill, you can bring along even defense wave to get the full stat spread. For the most part, I think dual Alm and Celica can run a ton of different builds. You can always go with Desperation, Wrath, Special Spiral, Solo A skills, and Distant Counter even would just be fun. Otherwise, I think their base kit is fine. They should be a fun unit to have, especially with that dual skill. That's it for this banner breakdown. For those not summoning, we have another Tempest Trials coming, and our free reward unit this time is Valentine's Silk. We also got some solid Sacred Seals to talk about. Let me know what you think of this year's Valentine's units, and I'll see you guys in the next video.